What is going on, you guys? It's Rahul here, back again with another video, and I'm here with another top 10. This time, we got my top 10 cornerbacks in the NFL. So before this video does get started, make sure to go ahead and check out episode 2 of the Rahul and Vikram podcast. It should be right about now, so go ahead and check it out. The link to that will be in the description below, and it will be in the pinned comment below, and also the link to the podcast channel, it's also going to be in the description and the pinned comment. And as always, before the video does get started, hit that like button if you enjoyed, as it really helps out the channel, and also make sure to subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy this type of content so you don't miss out on any new videos like this. Plus, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and once we hit our goal, I am finally going to do a face reveal. But with that being said, let's get this video started. And at number 10, we have Kyle Fuller of the Denver Broncos. Kyle Fuller, ever since 2018, he hasn't had an all-pro caliber season, and he hasn't had a year, as good as 2018 ever since, that season, but he is still one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. He's a great ball hacker, and in 2020, he had 1 interception and 8 passes defended, and while that's not crazy, it's still pretty good. And keep in mind, he's produced well despite the fact that he's had some good receivers in the NFC North, like Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and the list kind of goes on and on, but he had some pretty good receivers in the NFC North, and he's still gonna have some good receivers in the AFC West, and guys like Tyreek Hill and Keenan Allen. And Kyle Fuller, simply put, he's a really good player, and he is a great ball hawker. He's gonna be playing on a great secondary and a great defense in Denver, and all I can say is that Kyle Fuller, he's just a really good player. Not much else I really have to say for Kyle Fuller. At number 9, we have Denzel Ward of the Cleveland Browns. Denzel Ward, I feel like a lot of people do not mention him, enough when they talk about the best cornerbacks in the NFL. I love Denzel Ward. He's a great man-to-man corner. He's really fast, and while he does have some health issues, he's still really good when he's on the field. In 3 years as an NFL pro, the highest completion percentage he's allowed when targeted is 54%, and that 54%, it came this year. But Denzel Ward, he is still an amazing player, and I don't really have to do much explaining to, tell you that 54% when targeted, that is extremely impressive. And in 2020, he had 2 interceptions and 18 passes defended, and keep in mind, he missed a few games, and had he been playing a full season, those stats, they would have been more impressive. And to make it even, more impressive, his defense in 2020, it was not very good, and I gotta say, I think Cleveland's defense, it's gonna improve a lot when you take a look at the offseason additions, and Denzel Ward, he could contribute to a defense that's really good, and a team that maybe even wins the Super Bowl. The Cleveland Browns, they're gonna be a good team, and Denzel Ward, he's a really good player. At number 8, we have James Bradberry of the New York Giants. James Bradberry had one of the best seasons of his career in 2020. He made the Pro Bowl, and he was an integral part of the New York Giants defense. And the Giants defense, it was one of the best units in the league. He had 3 interceptions and 18 passes defended, and that is really good. He could be a key contributor on a Giants defense that, once again, could be one of the best in the league, and he could also be a key contributor to a New York team that makes the playoffs and or wins the NFC East. And the wide receivers in his division, I gotta say, they are pretty good. The Eagles, and not so much, but in Washington, they got Terry McLaurin, and the Cowboys, they got a scary receiving core. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, James Bradberry, simply put, he is amazing, and he's really surprised me. And I gotta say, the Giants, they got an absolute gem when they signed him in free agency in 2020. But moving on to number 7, we got Marshon Lattimore of the New Orleans Saints. Marshon Lattimore, I gotta say, he does have his consistency issues, but he's still one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. His cornerback help, it has not exactly been amazing, hasn't been, and the worst thing in the world is, his defenses in general that he's played on, they've been pretty good, but his cornerback help, it hasn't been amazing, but he's still produced pretty well. And I gotta say, ever since his rookie season, he hasn't progressed a whole lot, but Marshon Lattimore, he's still a really good player. And keep in mind, he has some good receivers in the NFC South, like Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I could go on and on, but Marshon Lattimore, he's still a really good player. And in 2020, he had 2 interceptions and 11 passes defended. Up next, we got TreDavious White at number 6, and he plays for the Buffalo Bills. TreDavious White, his 2020 year was not quite as good as his 2019 year, but Buffalo's pass rush was not very good, so that definitely hurt the secondary a lot, and it definitely hurt, their stats in TreDavious White. And I gotta say, that type of production he had in 2019, it's so good to the point where it's kind of hard to sustain that. And TreDavious White, he's a really good player. He's a great zone cornerback, and he's really good at forcing turnovers. And along with that, he can play some man as well. I mean, he's better in zone, but he's still a really good player. Next year, if the Bills can improve their pass rush, and then the Bills defense, it could be elite once again. And TreDavious White, he could have a really good season. But nonetheless, in 2020, he had 3 interceptions and 11 passes defended. Pretty good stats. Making our way into the top 5, we got Marlon Humphrey of the Baltimore Ravens. Marlon Humphrey, he is kind of a versatile player. He can play as an outside corner, he can play as a slot corner, and along with that, he's really good at forcing fumbles, and he can create, he can create turnovers not just through interceptions, but he can also create it through forcing fumbles, as I said before. In 2020, he had 1 interception and 11 passes defended and 8 forced fumbles, and keep in mind, those 8 forced fumbles, he led the league in that category. And Marlon Humphrey, he's a great player. Now, I will say, the NFC North, the receivers aren't quite as good, maybe compared to some of these other guys, other divisions. they are, it's still not bad, but Marlon Humphrey, he's just a really good player. At number 4, we got my guy of my New England Patriots. You know who it is, Stefan Gilmore. Stefan Gilmore, I got to admit, his 2020 season, it wasn't quite as good as his 2019 season, but that type of production, in 2019, he was so good to the point where it's kind of hard to sustain that year in and year out, and even then, in 2020, he was still pretty good. Now, he did miss 5 games, and he doesn't exactly, fill up the stat sheet, but Stefan Gilmore, he's a really good man-to-man cornerback who, he covers guys so well to the point where he doesn't really get targeted a lot, and even when he is targeted, he defends the pass very well. Now, he is having some contract disputes right now with the Patriots, and I really do hope that we don't trade him. I'd really like to keep him around for a couple more years, and Stefan Gilmore, I gotta say, he does deserve some money. He has turned into one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and I really do hope he does stay with us. And I gotta say, I might be a little bit biased when I do place him this high. I think top 5 is still, fair to say. I think it's fair to say that he is top 5, and I might be a little bit biased, as I said before, but Stefan Gilmore, he's a really good player. And in 2020, he had 1 interception and 3 passes defended. And making our way into the top 3, we got Xavier Howard of the Miami Dolphins. Xavier Howard, he had the best season of his career, undisputed best season of his career. You can make a real case that he should have won Defensive Player of the Year in 2020. And Xavier Howard, he was an all-pro, and he led the league in interceptions and pass deflections, and he is great at forcing turnovers. And while his man coverage, he's not really good in man-to-man coverage due to the fact that he is pretty slow, but Xavier Howard, he's great in zone, and he is an amazing player. And in 2020, he had 10 interceptions and 20 passes defended. Now, I am aware that there's a good chance that he does get traded from the Miami Dolphins, since he is having some, he is holding out for some reason, even though we got a massive extension not too long ago. I'm not going to go, into that, a whole lot, but Xavier Howard doesn't really change the fact that he's still a really good player. And while I do expect him to fall off a little bit next year, simply because, it's kind of hard to repeat seasons like that because they're so good. And as I said before, it's hard to sustain that. Xavier Howard, I think he's still going to be one of the better cornerbacks in the league. And Xavier Howard, he's just a great player, to put it simply. Now our runner-up at number 2 is Jaire Alexander of the Green Bay Packers. Jaire Alexander, he had a career season this past year. He's a fantastic man-to-man corner, and while he doesn't grab a whole lot of interceptions, Jaire Alexander, he covers guys so well to the point where a lot of times people don't really want to target him. And even then, Jaire Alexander, he is still one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. And as I said before, the NFC North, they do have some good receivers. Now, he doesn't exactly have to face Davante Adams in games because, Davante Adams is on his team, but he still has to deal with guys like Justin Jefferson, Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Adam Thielen. Point is, he has some good receivers, and Jaire Alexander, still a great player. Next year, I think he could, he's going to have some pressure taken off of him because of Eric Stokes. But up next at number 1, we have Jalen Ramsey. And I mean, Jalen Ramsey, he might have had the best season of his career. He shut down numerous receivers and who were great. I mean, he's an extremely good player, and he shut down numerous receivers. I mean, every guy he played, he was pretty much just locking them up, and he was putting them in jail. And keep in mind, the NFC West has some great receivers like DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. They got some good receivers in the NFC West, and he doesn't, necessarily, stuff up the stat sheet a whole lot when it comes to interceptions, but he's hardly targeted, and even when he is targeted, he does defend the pass well. He had 1 interception and 9 passes defended in 2020, and he was an All-Pro last season. And simply put, Jalen Ramsey, he was amazing. But with that being said, that'll do it for today's video. Again, go ahead and check out the podcast channel and check out episode 2 of the podcast. Link both of them, they're going to be linked in the description and in the pinned comment below. And of course, like the video if you enjoyed, as it really helps out the channel. And also make sure to subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy this type of content, so you don't miss out on any new videos like this. Plus, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and once we hit our goal, I am finally going to do a face reveal. But with that being said, I'm out, you guys.